Many sleeps ago, 5 nefarious felons went in search of cosmetic glory beyond the sleeping hill into the land of Bedward Story. The Flutterby Fair was in town, and all the children cheered. Until a carousel of criminals arrived, wearing candy floss beards. At first, the itching gang failed to prosper with peculiar things they do, like boiling wooden horses down to make a non-adhesive glue. One was overly ambitious, but everything he did was dumb. The flames climbed up the ladder and burnt his itching bum. He sank into the cauldron. A skeletal hand waved goodbye, while the 5 remaining felons took their circus to the sky. They flew in an aeroplane made entirely from newspaper, hoping to hit the headlines with their latest harebrained caper. They tore through the side streets, climbing to a tremendous height, dive-bombing their terrified target with kamikaze delight. They built the paper aeroplane to advertise their gloop, but straight away, the wings fell off when they did a loop-the-loop. They plummeted from the sky and had a wretched feeling to concoct repellent recipes revoltingly unappealing. So turned to make a killing with culinary escapades, swarming with corruption to make waspy marmalades. They crunch the creepy crawlies. Bulging eyes begin to shine. The taste of tiny assassins like an exploding porcupine. The sticky swarm surrounds them. High above the gathering crowd, they meet a cosmetic giant, powdering her face with a cloud. She sprayed them with a perfume that had an overwhelming smell, infused with toxic vapors, an overpowering spell. In the shadow of her glamour, they did what they were told. You'll help me make a potion that closely resembles mold. It had a missing ingredient, the essence of old ladies' creams, an iridescent vapor found in young people's dreams. The Flutterbys are siphoned into a dream-draining machine that churns them up with the mold to make anti-aging cream. They wheel in a cobwebbed corpse upon a rusty gurney, dug up from her deathbed to reverse her rotten journey. The itchings unleash the serum, a purple sludge most vile, creeping towards the coffin to start the sinister trial. Her hair is knotted with worms. Toes are peppered with bunions. Warts congregate on the end of her nose like bloated, pickled onions. They pour the magic formula all over the festering hag. The smell of rotten flesh fills the air, and the itching start to gag. A marvelous mutation occurs inside the mysterious stew. A purple princess rises, reborn in the miracle goo. The giant sends them back to Bedward in search of children's dreams to make a gigantic fortune selling old ladies' creams. They stalked through tiny bedrooms, armed with crooked hats, gathering in the flutterbys and rendering them with fats. Dreamland was now quite empty, and innocence wrung from society. The Itchings at last stopped running to bathe in their newfound notoriety. A media circus sent them round the town in an open-top Black Mariah. A troupe of peelers formed a guard of shame at a ticker-tape parade of ladies' attire. On trial at last, the Itching gang are brought up before the beak, accused of stealing flutterbys, when the crowd began to shriek, "The Itchings are innocent! We have undeniable proof that they should be pardoned for the secret of eternal youth! Order! Order! Order!" The courtroom doors burst open. A bailiff wheels in Exhibit A, crowbarred into proceedings, an ashen child of grey. Dry tears of sharp condemnation rained down on the court from the frail as they smouldered in their gallery, smiling luminously beneath each veil. "I'll overlook these misdemeanors if you plead with my fifth wife. She's cleared the apothecary of potions and blunted the surgeon's knife. If you extract an aqueous solution from the edges of the Seine and make her a miracle elixir, I'll declare you all insane." My lad, there are no dreamers residing in this town. We rinsed out all the happiness and replaced it with a frown. You felons are quite mistaken. There's one remaining still. She dwells in distraught manner beyond the sleeping hill. Before the judge could deliver his sentence, the Itchings acquitted in blind fury, a unanimous verdict somehow reached by 12 dangly men, a hung jury. Five dream-catching felons go in search of cosmetic glory beyond the sleeping hill into the heart of Bedward Story. They enter the enchanted forest. The giant trees begin to stir, brushing past their branches as soft as monster fur. They cross a sacred boundary under two bears made of stone and have an eerie feeling they are no longer alone. They approach Distraught Manor, a crooked ruin of crumbling rubble. I want to go back to Bedward. This haunted house spells trouble. In through the yawning window to play the ghastly game of death, the wicked absconders become unsettled by the flight of their breath. The ghostly spirits take form, each under a dusty sheet, warning the dream catchers of the opponents they must beat. She haunts the topmost bedroom, up 4 steep flights of stairs, each guarded by a creation drawn from the girl's nightmares. They'll try every trick in the book to make you want to play. And if you cross into their world, that is where you'll always stay. Past the dormant menagerie, with a passage from Bedward Story, any departure from the path leads to an ending catastrophically gory. Hacking through their stupidity with a machete of twisted greed until the stories strangle them, for not one of them can read. He stares into the shadows, stirring inside the abyss, when a horseless head approaches to give him a sloppy kiss. Twisting in a torment, suspended in disbelief, when a childish apparition appears to release the flutterby thief. I'll unlock a little secret buried within this book. It has surprising properties you were bound to overlook. The book and the building are connected. It's the easiest thing to show. Let your imagination wander and watch the stories grow. Buckled on the balustrade, there sulks a prehistoric bird, flaunting burlesque feathers and Wellingtons, quite absurd. Intoxicated, they stagger to the next yarn, unawares, stumbling upon a plaster cast of poorly paisley bears. Emerging from the carpet to stage their grisly fate, a choreographed misadventure with a wayward roller skate. Pandering to the bandaged patient, he raises his itching paws to trace the rugside manner, a patterned carpet on all fours. I've diagnosed your dilemma. You have the roller skating bug. Suddenly, a second bear leapfrogs and sinks back into the rug. Swept back by crawling confusion, turning tails to their escapes, when a camouflaged contingent capers from the dusty drapes. He cavorts across the carpet, cutting loose from the fray, but the wicked, willful roller skate really wants to play. Skipping from the skirmish right under the little girl's nose, he skids into a skedaddle, a calamity of clumsy toes. Uprooted by his ankles and yanked from off the stairs, stacked onto their shoulders, a totem pole of bears. Hoisted onto the banisters, he shoots off down the rails, gliding over the itchings curled up like licorice snails. He swishes through the curtains. Halfway down the stairs, his hat changes colour, just like the Paisley Bear's. Whip cracked on the carpet, undulating with the page. Banisters surround them like a deep-sea diver's cage. From the depths of her imagination, she conjures a myopic surprise. The stairs sink underwater, and there appear two mongoose eyes, a tangle of tactile tentacles to find out who they could be. A short-sighted octopus from 20,000 leagues beneath the sea. The octopus is offended by the itching's cruel laugh. He unleashes his inner kraken and gives them an early bath. Whisked up like a whirling dervish, a tempest of sunken troubles. Hats get lost in the whirlpool, a tornado of millinery bubbles. 4 itchings swim to the safety of the crimson carpet shore, but one of them is stranded, unaware of what's in store. The itchings' hats are bobbing like bath-time toys in a tub, when up pops a peeking periscope from a barnacle-clustered sub. Hungry hats gather in his wake, rolling clouds of foaming thunder. Doggy paddle like the clappers, the creature would tear you asunder. The floundering felon is landed, hooked by a dripping sleeve, followed by 5 hats floating on a cushion of make-believe. The Leviathan vamooses before itching eyes can see, the slippery sucker shrinking to the size of a circus flea. Frantically, they follow the bug, hidden under hasty switches, shrouded in a tottering tower and stacked like wonky witches. The itchings squelch together in a secret soaking huddle until one of their number sees a rapidly prospering puddle. His hat begins to balloon, and trembling knees grow feeble, totally toppling upside down and wobbling like a weeble. Spinning them by the ankles until the air begins to purr. Flailing limbs wheel round and round much faster than a blur. The myopic octopus misjudges how far they have been hurled, right through the open window and out of his watery world. They fizz like fading comets to a far-off honeycomb moon, tethered by stardust yo-yos like an ethereal balloon. They find a turquoise tortoise mooching along the moon so slow, lugging a hatbox on his lazy shell, its ribbon all looped in a bow. Tortoise, I have a proposal. Would you entertain a swapper? Whatever the hatbox may contain, for my dream-catching topper. Rolling up his stripy sleeves, he blindly takes the plunge and removes a honeycomb hairpiece fashioned from flutterby sponge. An interstellar umbrella arrives, trailblazing through the sky, descending with the little girl and her bedtime lullaby. Cherry notes drift from a crater, heading for the sponge-wig thief, dazzled by a sherbet walrus playing music on his ivory teeth. The mesmerized Medusa gapes at dancing berries, a swirling galaxy explodes and gulps the celestial cherries. Drumming a flutterby patter and stirring a field of candy canes, the sherbet walrus summons the joyously jumping rains. Wrapped around their shoulders, warm draft excluder scarves, reeling them further backwards into cold spaghetti baths. Electric eels slither to take the lead around the lunar landing till they complete the circuit. A shocking misunderstanding. Frazzled from all the voltage, the weary walrus begins to snore. At last the itchings are discharged, for they can conquer no more. Driven to the dark side beyond Jupiter and Mars, a swamp of failed ambition, a bog of fallen stars. They hear a tummy rumbling, a splintered gargle and a slurp. The ugly tree leans forward and lets out a massive burp. Chased by their own creations, strangely twisted creatures, a marmalade masquerade with familiar itching features. The nightmares rise up through the sugary fog, rounding up the wrong-uns from the belching bog. They charge across the moon toward a hat-shaped mountain, racing up the jagged slopes in search of a flutterby fountain. He peers into the chasm and wonders what to do, when the mischievous mule gives him an almighty buckaroo. Find a weeping willow, a flutterby chandelier, whimpering with misery, reflecting each one's fear. The itchings are rejoicing the end of their childish crusade. They have the elusive ingredient, the deadliest nightshade. The weeping willow turns into a flutterby swing. He tries to warn the others, but they're not listening. He has an itching suspicion of who they really are. Monsters at a fairground who've taken the ride too far. Glimpsed through a gruesome prism, 4 bubble-blistered humbugs with corrosive tongues inquiring like salty licorice slugs. He hears a grim demonic laugh from a skeleton peering in. It is the cosmetic giant without her orange skin. Her wretched hand reaches in, fingers like giant twiglets. She hollers like a hungry wolf and swallows the squealing piglet. She delves into the mountain, searching for a second treat. He plunges off the hurling swing, hanging from his hideous feet. She lifts up her trophy, a double helping in her claws. She dangles them in the air and opens her hungry jaws. He reaches in the rotten mouth before she devours her young, but finds he can't hold onto the slippery slug-like tongue. He free falls in slow motion, right down the giant's sleeve, returning back to Bedward from the land of make-believe. He snaps out of the nightmare with a startled look and falls flat upon his face into the final pages of the book. He unearths his own ending hidden under the ivy leaves. Here lies the itching gang, the flutterby thieves. The itching adventure is over. The dream catchers were doomed to fail. The dawning realization, they're buried within the tale.